Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to make the case for people learning to pull both sumo and conventional on their deadlifts, and I want to make the case for using a variety of different deadlifts in your training. Now, when I state this, I'm not saying that the normal conventional deadlift is something that every person needs to do, because when we talk about these things, people will say, well, you're being like an absolutist. You're being dogmatic, saying everyone has to deadlift. I'm not saying everyone has to deadlift. What I'm saying is that if you want to be strong, if you want to be really and truly strong, learning to do a variety of deadlifts would behoove you no matter what your overall training goals are. Now, I'm not telling you that the deadlift is the best hypertrophy tool ever. I'm not telling you to do really high rep sets on deadlifts for hypertrophy work. In fact, all you guys have seen me do for quite a while is pull heavy singles. I don't do any reps. I don't use the deadlift personally for hypertrophy. I don't think deadlifts for anyone outside of the novice phase of lifting are a particularly effective hypertrophy tool. Now, I think speed pulls can be, if done as dynamic work as part of a larger program. So I'm not being dogmatic at all and saying, oh, they're the best back exercise. They're not. They really aren't. I think deadlifts are the greatest lifts of all time. I think they're the greatest test of strength. I think they're the greatest test to build absolute strength and maximum strength as a tool. But they're not the best tool to get bigger. Okay. And I want to make that clear. But I am of the opinion that everyone should be trying to get strong, which is why I state this. Now, you do need to do a lot of hypertrophy work to get strong, and I talk about that a lot. I talk about which exercises will build your deadlift, because I don't build my deadlift anymore using the deadlifts as far as the muscles involved, right? I do all sorts of other exercises for my hamstrings, glutes, erectors, traps, grip, right? I do a lot of different hypertrophy exercises, but I pull for heavy singles. And you guys see all through here, I do a pretty large variety of lifts. Why? Well, we can get into the topic of overuse in a minute, but let's talk about just the sumo versus conventional. Now, the conventional is easier to learn. I want to make that very clear. I can teach someone how to pull a perfect conventional deadlift in one session. And people say, well, can you give an example? I actually think the starting strength guys, Mark Ripito, did a seminar last year demonstrating this. And I disagree with him on a lot of things, including squats. But that deadlift tutorial he gave was perfect. It doesn't matter whether you disagree with someone. If they give you a tutorial that is perfect, you give them credit for it. The way he taught the deadlift there was absolutely and utterly perfect. That's all you need. Now, the sumo requires more skill to learn. The other thing is that the sumo requires more mobility. And that's the big deal we come to of why it's a good idea to learn to pull sumo. A lot of guys out there, they can't pull both. What happens? You get up to a 500 conventional deadlift and you go to pull sumo. And then you find out that you do not have the lower body muscle, or more importantly, the mobility to pull sumo. Well, isn't that a strength imbalance? And let's talk about being fit and athletic, because that's what I care about. We care about being strong, but we want to be athletic. And if you can't do things in a wide stance and you can't generate maximum power through those planes also, you're not going to be athletic. This wide stance stuff like this, like wide stance sumo deadlifts, box squats, can give you a lot of the benefits of why some strength coaches have field athletes do one-legged exercises. It teaches you to learn to push through both legs independently, spread out further, gives you better abilities on a playing field. It can also help correct unilateral strength and muscular imbalances, okay, and help with our compensatory strength. Just one of the tools we use for that. Obviously, there's other tools that help with that. It's just one of many. All right? But the main thing is that if you can't pull sumo also, you have a strength imbalance. Now, you guys saw me spend pretty much a whole year pulling sumo, didn't I? Then I came back and started pulling conventional. Started hitting some pretty big conventional type lifts right there. So that was 575 off of a 2.5-inch deficit. I'm stronger than that at this point. Conventional stuff's going up. I rebuilt conventional deadlift off of doing sumos and rows and good mornings. It works. The sumo will build the conventional. The conventional will not build the sumo. So if you only pull conventional and you don't develop that wide stance strength, you're going to have lower body muscle imbalances, both in terms of strength and mobility. You need to do both. You need to do both. It would behoove you to learn both from a muscular development and a fitness and athleticism perspective. It's a good idea. Particularly if you're going to do anything more than singles. Like, I would never do rep work on a conventional deadlift at this point. I think I've reached a point where I don't program that. I don't do that. I think it's ludicrous. Pull 1 rep on a conventional. That's it. So if you're going to do speed work, you're going to do any sort of volume, you're going to need to do sumo. It's a better choice. Now, that being said, a lot of people are really, really suited to pull conventional. In spite of all that sumo pulling, I'm stronger on conventional than sumo. And a lot of people are. I'm not going to get into the biomechanics behind that of why some people pull more sumo. It does have to do with ratios in their body, oftentimes height. All right, a lot of factors. In that case, though, you're probably going to want to do any real heavy pulling you do. You're going to want to do conventionals and even some deficits. But here's the thing. A lot of people aren't built to pull directly from the floor. Well, this is why we can have varying block heights. That's the thing that bothers me. Some people say, well, this lifter or this client of mine, they can't pull conventional because of their mobility and they can't get to that position. It's not the ideal position. Well, put it up on blocks. You guys see me doing up to 2 inches changes. You can get 1-inch rubber mats. You can change the height in 1-inch increments to make block pulls for someone who doesn't have the perfect mobility to reach that position. Okay, that's a ludicrous. If you're a trainer or a coach and you have a client or an athlete who you don't have them pull from the floor because of that, why don't you have the tools available to change the height? Why don't you have rubber mats and blocks? We can change the range of motion. Okay, this is common, simple stuff that every decent strength coach knows already. We can adjust the heights. And you know what? It's a good idea to adjust the heights. You should be rotating through them. And let's come over to the other point. If we're going to deadlift, why are we deadlifting? We're deadlifting to build maximum strength, to learn to express maximum strength, which is a product of our hypertrophy. Okay, the muscle mass that we have will determine our strength potential. We have to actualize that potential with heavy singles to learn to strain. If we're doing that on something like a deadlift, we can get overuse injuries, can't we? All right, well, what happens if we change these things? What if you don't have chains like I do? All these different chain ways to change it. You can do block pulls. Okay, you can do deficits. We can change the range of motion several inches in either direction. We can bring the bar up or down relative to our shins with deficits and blocks. That gives us a lot of tools to change things to reduce our chances of overuse injuries. If you change your movement patterns like that, we get hurt less often, dramatically lower. And I'm not saying heavy singles are risky. I don't believe they are in particular. You guys know my stance on that already. But we want to take the risk even lower. Rotate through your lifts. What else will that do? Let's set that aside. Let's set aside the injury. Let's talk about being more athletic. Someone who can pull with 2 different foot positions, who can pull from different heights, deficits, block pulls, normal from the floor, against different chain tensions. Does that make you more athletic? You're able to pull maximally from a variety of positions with absolute maxes. All out 1 rep max lifts, right? Like right there. Saw that little shutter at the top? That's all I had, guys. That was a max lift. You're able to pull and generate maximum pulling force from multiple foot positions, strength curves, and points of start. Does that make you more athletic? You're forced to grapple. You're forced to get on a playing field. You're forced to manhandle an awkward object in the real world, whether it's a tree that's fallen down, or it's someone grappling you, or you fighting for your life. You'll be more athletic because you can generate maximum force from these different positions. You want to be strong, it's a real good idea to learn how to do that. It would behoove you. Says me. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.